I'm JP Gilmore of Integrity, and we're doing a special edition of Ostriol Centro's My Favorite Bottle. We're here today with Dr. Jerry Seps of Storybook Mountain Vineyard. Dr. Seps, welcome.
Thank you, JP. It's nice to be here.
Jerry, how did you find the property where Storybook Mountain Vineyards is today?
Well, my wife and I had been looking for 2 years, and we found this ad, and the realtor said, "We meet you up there at the vineyard." And it was abandoned at that time. There was just this gate across the entrance. And it was late on a summer afternoon, and we came in that gate and went down the road. And on our left-hand side were the Palisades, reflected in the moonlight, because just a beautiful time of night. And there were deer playing in the meadow, because there was a little meadow on the left of the road there. And that's when I still loved deer. But we went around another corner. There's a large redwood grove, and then there were 3 shadowy entrances into the hill there, which we found out were caves dug by the Chinese. And we just kind of fell in love with the place. It was love at first sight, with this beautiful hillside with the redwood groves going up the hill, and just the romance of the moonlight and the deer in the meadow and all that good kind of thing. And from there, the love story has continued to the present day.
And how did Storybook Mountain Vineyards get its name?
Well, it started out being owned by 2 brothers named Grimm, Jacob and Adam Grimm, back in the 1880s. And we decided Grimm Vineyards and Wine Vaults was probably not a good name to revive. So to honor the brothers Grimm, we called it Storybook Mountain. But also Storybook because it's a beautiful location at the top of the Napa Valley, goes up a hillside, occupies a mountain bowl, literally at the very top of the valley, as our sign modestly says, first in the Napa Valley. And it's a storybook also because I think wine, like a good story, should add something to your life. So hopefully our wines are adding something to your life as well.
So the Grimm Vineyards and Wine Vaults became a ghost winery. Tell me about a ghost winery. What is that?
It's a ghost winery because it was abandoned for a long period of time. What had happened is back in '64, and we bought the place in '76. So for 12 years it had laid abandoned. And these caves had been very romanticized in a publication that was on the older wineries in Napa Valley. And the writer had said, this is a ghost of wineries past, in effect. So that's how it got its name, and being abandoned for that long period of time as well.
Jerry, I know from visiting Storybook that there's a network of caves that are part of the winery dug into the side of the mountain. What can you tell me about those?
Well, the caves are really one of the things that attracted us to the property. These are caves that were dug back in the 1880s by the Chinese. There are 3 caves connected at the rear, and if you visit the caves, you can still see the pick marks left by the Chinese. They're quite well done. They have great air circulation, and they're a perfect place to have as the core of your winery.
So Jerry, please tell me how you decided to plant Zinfandel rather than Cabernet or Chardonnay on the property.
Well, that was something of a difficult decision. We were urged to plant Chardonnay because this was the '70s and everybody was planting Chardonnay at the time. But because the property was abandoned, we had to have it cleared. And in that process, we wanted to evaluate the land. And we felt if we could be good stewards of the land, plant the right thing on that land, the land would then support us. But in order to do that, you have to match grape and estate. And so we looked at the soil, we looked at the climate, we looked at the exposure, we looked at the topography, all those things that go into creating that match of grape and estate. If we could find the grape that matched all those characteristics, we would produce something that would be hopefully world class. Finally decided we'd talk to the late Andrei Chelichev. And he said, Jerry, there's just no better place for growing Zinfandel in those red clay loam soils above Calistoga. So that was kind of the final word, and he was the dean of California winemakers, so hopefully that set us on the right track.
Can you tell me a story about when you first knew that Storybook Zinfandel was a success?
As you know, it takes a while for grapes to mature and get it in the bottle and have it ready to sell. And in that process, which was about 6-7 years, we came to need some money. So we applied to the bank for a 6-figure loan to carry us on. They said, well, your business plan is great, you've got enough assets, but we want a bottle of your wine. And they took a bottle of our wine, and the bank directors actually poured the wine among themselves, and they thought it was good enough to give us a six-figure loan. So I can honestly say that we sold our first bottle for six figures.
Jerry, looks like we've got a bottle of 2009 Storybook Mountain Vineyards Mayacamas Range Zinfandel. Shall we taste it?
By all means.
Absolutely.
This wine is our flagship wine in some ways. That's the wine we do more of than any other. And what we're looking for in this wine is to deduce what the variety Zinfandel really has so strongly. And I think that is, hopefully you'll find here, berry fruit, both blackberry, raspberry, a little bit of pepper, and a little bit of spice on the back of the palate.
Is this 100% Zinfandel?
It is 100% Zinfandel.
Jerry, what do you get in the nose here?
Well, I get those berries, kind of a combination of red and black fruit on this wine. I also get a little bit of spice, almost a savory aspect to go along with that fruit.
And the oak you age the wine in, does that have anything to do with the aroma?
It does. We age our wine in a combination of French and American oak, so that kind of adds to the complexity of the wine. I think that adds both aroma and something to the body of the wine.
Let's give it a taste. Wow, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
So what are you getting on the palate?
Well, it's as it should be, a repetition of basically what you get in the nose, that kind of fruit. A little more spice, perhaps on the palate than there was in the nose, and that little bit of black pepper right at the end. But it leaves that palate nice and clean, ready for the next sip or the next bite of food. So I'm looking forward to a good dish here at El Central.
Yeah, and I get an incredible concentration of fruit. Does that have anything to do with the age of the vines?
Not really. The age of the vines has more to do with the process of it and the crop size. We tend to get only 2.5 tons per acre. That's relatively low. And that tends to give us a little more concentrated wine. And one of my goals as a winemaker is to give you lots of intensity without a lot of weight. Our wines are not jammy, they're not high alcohol, but they're very intensely flavored wines.
And I know that Napa Valley Cabernets can be around 14% alcohol. What's the typical alcohol on your Zinfandels?
Our Zinfandels are also at 14%.
Okay.
Hopefully it's not something you feel. Hopefully they're balanced so that the alcohol is not obtrusive.
Okay. Oh.
No, it's a very small family winery. I'm still the tractor driver,
Okay.
As well as the winemaker. My daughter's my associate as winemaker. My son-in-law's national sales. My wife is still active in hospitality. But it's a family another way, and I like always to present that. And that is, we have the same Mexican family work for us for 37 years.
Wow.
And without their loyal following and hard work, we would not be the winery we are.
And is this 100% estate grown and bottled?
State grown, bottled, certified organic by CCOF. So not only does it taste good, but it's good for you.
There we go. Cheers.
There you go. All right.
What do you get out of this wine when you taste it, Jerry?
I get that kind of berry fruit up front, kind of delicious, mouth-watering fruit, and then complexity grows as you begin to swallow the wine. It'll be very focused, very long, very clean on the palate.
So you're a Zinfandel producer, but how have you been able to consistently produce world-class Zinfandel year after year?
It goes back to year one and trying to find the right match of grape and estate. We have a relatively cool climate. We're the coolest vineyard in the north part of the Napa Valley, as an example. So climate is right. We face east. We have more east or northeasterly exposure. It tends to draw the morning sun rather than the late afternoon bake. It tends to maintain the balance of the wine.
Mm-hmm.
We have red clay loam soils, which tends to give the wine a little bit of power. So it's a combination of all those elements that we've tried to put together in order to produce the wine that we want to have before the public and that we can taste in our glass here.
When did Storybook first begin receiving awards and accolades for the quality of wine produced?
We're really fortunate. It was right from day one. The first review we received of our wine was from Robert Finnegan, and he said it's a perfect example of what Zinfandel should be with a touch of oak thrown in. And the first year that we had our wine on the market, we entered a competition. It was a Zinfandel competition, and there were 200 Zinfandels. And our wines, we had released 2 vintages at the same time. Our wines finished first and second out of 200 wines.
Wow.
So that was a good way to begin the whole process.
That's fantastic.
And, we've kept it up since then. Parker says we're one of the 6 best Zinfandels in the world. Wine and Spirits has identified us last 8 years as one of the top 100 wineries in the world. And we're the only producer in the Napa Valley to have 4 wines in the top 100 wines of the year in the last couple of years. So Zinfandel has done well by us. We've done well by Zinfandel, I should say, as well.
Jerry, have you ever been to Ostriol Centro before?
Of course I have. Well, let's see. They've been open about 16 years now, if I recall.
Mm-hmm.
And like Storybook, they have that reputation for consistent, good food, good atmosphere, nice people. It's a lovely place to come to, and I'm really pleased to have our wine here for all those years.
And which wines of yours are on the wine list at Il Centro?
Right now we have the Mayacamas range that we're enjoying. There's a wine we call Eastern Exposures. There's our Reserve, and there's a blend called Antaeus, and we have a little bit of our Cabernet here as well.
Jerry, can you tell me a little bit about the Antaeus?
I can indeed. It's called Antaeus because that's a figure out of Greek mythology. It's the figure that draws all his strength from the land, and that wine draws from all our red varieties. We now have planted, in addition to the Zinfandel, which is still our dominant grape, a little bit of Cabernet, a little bit of Petit Verdot, a little bit of Merlot, and that wine contains all those varieties. Mostly Zinfandel, and then Cabernet, and a little bit of Merlot, Petit Verdot. And it makes for a wine that somebody called the essence of California. It has that fruit that you expect from Zinfandel up front, and then it has that Cabernet kind of aspect in the back, adding to the complexity of the wine and its enjoyment.
Dr. Seps, thank you so much for joining us at Ostriol Centro, and your wines are fantastic.
JP, it's been my pleasure. Let's do it again.
Cheers. I'm JP Gilmore of Integrity Wine, and this has been a special edition of My Favorite Bottle from Ostriol Centro, featuring Dr. Jerry Seps of Storybook Mountain Vineyards. Be sure to join us for our next edition of My Favorite Bottle, featuring Storybook Mountain Vineyards and Dr. Jerry Seps.